Welcome back to College Football Addiction, Locked On Big 12's Drake C. Toll with us. Drake, a different location for me, but we're still doing this every single week. Shout out to us for being the real MVPs. How you doing, man?
I'm actually really excited about this show, TJ. I know we've peeked behind the curtain a bit before about how we text back and forth about topics, and these three I'm really passionate about, so I'm super pumped.
Hopefully people will enjoy it. If not, they can get lost.
Yeah,
we'll come back with more fire next week. But wait till the end of the video before you leave. So cuss us out in the comments. Mostly on LO Big 12.
Right.
What are we getting into today? The Big 12 is ready to expand. I know that we're in the middle of the season, so don't hate on us for the realignment talk, but here we are again.
Sure. So this is the biggest storyline I think has come out of Big 12 basketball media days this week. Brett Yormark meeting with the folks in Kansas City, and this is the topic that I have the main takeaway from is he was pretty transparent that the Big 12 is going to expand when the time is right. That time is not today, but when asked about expansion, he said, "I'm in favor of it." This is something Brett Yormark is still thinking about. It's still every morning he's the stock market checks his phone. It's like, oh, I wonder if North Carolina or Miami or Louisville slid up this time, and I can respond to them. He is in favor of expansion, and the economics and the access make sense. So in essence, what this means is where the SEC has said, hey, we're kind of closing our doors, and the Big Ten says, oh, well, we want Notre Dame. Other than that, we're kind of focused right now. And the ACC says, well, we're just trying an expansion to hold on to Florida State and Clemson and hope that we don't collapse altogether. The Big 12 says, we are ready to pounce. And look, like you mentioned, this is a middle of the day and in the middle of college football season, so it's kind of weird to talk a storyline about expansion, but this is the new era of the Big 12 that we've entered. It's no longer Bob Bowlesby. With Brett Yormark, the new commissioner of the conference, I guess he's been there a couple years now, this is a guy that wants to attack. He is open for business. We are in a league, he also said during his media day spiel, that we're in a league that will fight for equal representation in the college football playoff. If the SEC wants 3, the Big 12 wants 3. If the Big 10 wants 4, the Big 12 wants 4. They're not going to sit back and allow the AP poll or the FPI metric for ESPN dictate how college football is run and who gets in the college football playoff. I think for him to expect multiple bids, not just this year, but moving forward, highlighting the quality of the Olympic sports in the Big 12, like a baseball, a softball, even tennis being great in this conference, or cross country at BYU winning a national championship. And past that, how the Big 12 isn't a spot to steal teams from other conferences, and that when it makes sense, he's ready, he's there, and he's in favor of adding new schools. That's an attack and an approach Bob Bowlesby didn't have, an attack and approach that Jim Phillips doesn't have with the ACC, and an attack and an approach that I think sets the Big 12 apart right now.
We've talked about this a ton during the offseason, and we'll talk about it again. We'll rehash kind of the ideas. The big targets in the ACC, despite honestly all three of them having pathetic years in Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Just want to quickly give some love to our friends over at Sleeper. Make sure that you have the Sleeper app downloaded. On Wednesday, we will play the More or Less game on the Power 2 Live. Hopefully you can make some money with us. If you do up to 100% deposit using our code CFA, you will get a 100% match. But if you don't want to deposit, we have a free $20 play for you. You don't need to pay anything. Just get your free $20 play on the Sleeper app. Use our code CFA. The link in the description will auto-populate it. Make some money with us. Check their terms and conditions because terms are used to apply. Now back to the video. They still feel like they're the teams that are most likely to wind up in the SEC or Big Ten. One season is not going to change that. I don't think. If and when we get to that bridge, we'll talk about it. But are the targets still the same? Is it still, Miami's kind of your top of the line crown jewel that you could get. Louisville's right after that. Maybe a Georgia Tech, maybe some other teams, NC State, Virginia Tech. Do you think part one, I guess, is on targets? Part two, is our timeline still like 2030, or do you think they can be more aggressive than that?
Yeah, so I thought it was funny. We'll talk about this as well. Texas Tech fans are excited to go to the SEC in either 2030 or 2031. So at least they have the knowledge that that's
more,
when
more things on that in our next video.
Right. Things are going to shift, which that part's, I think that is still the shift date. And even the casual fan of expansion or realignment understands That's when these TV contracts begin to rework. That's when the networks start to shuffle things around, and teams like Florida State and Clemson have a very low price tag to exit the ACC, and they can bounce to the Big Ten. They can bounce to the SEC. Now, I do not believe that they will be Big 12 bound. I do not think that they are the ones that we point out and say, hey, the Big 12 and Brett Yormark must throw the kitchen sink at them. Even with Clemson losing right now, I believe that they are still targets for the Big Ten, targets for the SEC. It's not them I'm focused on for the Big 12 exactly gaining new members, but instead them being the domino to eventually lead the Big 12 poaching different members of the ACC. I do think Louisville is still in the conversation. I think Pitt is up there. I'd be shocked if Georgia Tech, even as good as they are right now, I just don't know. And some people say, hey, the SEC wants that brand. Other people say, you know what? Nobody wants that brand. I think the Big 12 would be very lucky to have the Atlanta metro area. A lot of folks are confused on how they sit in realignment. Duke brings a lot of value to a lot of people, and maybe they are tied to North Carolina. But if they're tied to North Carolina, then is NC State tied to North Carolina? Or is that an opportunity with the Big 12 being in the position they're in to say, hey, if the SEC doesn't want UNC, if they want, say, Virginia, which is a academic power and brings you a new market, and somehow North Carolina slips through the cracks, this is the conference that would take Louisville, that would take North Carolina, or NC State, if the legislature in that state made sure that all the schools stayed together. Obviously, Brett Yormark would pounce on that. Past that, Miami is going to be a pretty coveted school, but I just don't know if they're in that top four because we still hear that the SEC may not want to compete with Florida. They don't want to mix things up. And the Big Ten doesn't love the last couple of decades from the Hurricanes, despite how good they are this season, or I guess how good they've been. I guess that could derail here the next couple of weeks as we've just seen them lose.
Hopefully.
But the Florida State guy strikes again. We as the Big 12, if I may, in business with the ACC, I believe. It won't be Memphis. It won't be UConn. I don't think it'll be Gonzaga. It will have to make the most sense. And what will make the most sense is bringing in new rivals for Cincinnati or West Virginia, expanding on the East Coast. And from there, I certainly don't see, if things collapse in the ACC, Stanford, Cal, SMU, even being schools that the Big 12 looks at. And that's partly because there's some pettiness there in the way that those universities treated our conference when the Pac-12 was once a thing. It's dead now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the targets are the same. And it also feels like, man, if and when the Big Ten and the SEC expand, and if they pick up a Florida State or a Clemson or a North Carolina or some of these other programs that we've talked about that may be tied to some of those programs, the ACC will deal itself a blow there, kind of unintentional. Like it is their fault, but it's kind of like they're dealt a blow because of teams leaving. And the Big 12 could come in and just truly finish them off. Not that they would be so much competition for them, because I think there would be kind of the way in our minds, we do still, not trying to get on the Big 12 here. We do have the dividing line of here's the SEC and the Big 10, and then here's the Big 12 and the ACC. And I don't really know if that's an argument right now with how the way this year is going. But if it was 5 years ago or whatever, it wouldn't even be an argument then, because I think there would be a pretty clear dividing line between 3 and 4. But what it would do is it would eliminate 4. It would put 4 down to, listen, this is just a really good group of 5 kind of conference, at the group of 6 kind of conference at this point, with the ACC falling so far behind. And I don't know that the Big 12's mission would be to eliminate the ACC, but in making their own conference stronger, that is in practice what they would be doing.
No doubt. And that's where, look, at the end of all of this, the thesis of all of this, the ACC is the weakest link right now because their strongest schools want to get out. And I don't think ESPN is going to be comfortable doling money to a conference whose best brands, after they lose North Carolina or Virginia, somehow Virginia is a big brand here. I don't get it, but all these realignment blokes say that that's the one they're pointing at because of academics and brand power to be one to watch. Florida State, Clemson. I mean, if these schools exit, then NC State can't carry the boats. They can't. Right. They can't keep the load. And so I do believe we're looking at 1, 2, and 3. The ACC outside looking in because their best brands probably want to go.
Yeah, on our next video, which you can click it on the screen right now, we talk about realignment with a rumor of Texas Tech maybe to the SEC. So go check that out if you haven't already.